I am back with another video. Today we're going to be doing last year's paper 2 finals, and we're going to be doing section D, poetry, which is the funnest and also hardest section of paper 2, because this one you can't cram it, you can't fake it, this one you really need to be able to comprehend the poem. And yeah, I think the most important thing about poems or poetry is having that level of comprehension, and once you do, then the questions are just more easier, right? So question 6, section D, we have this poems, which the first one is The Slave Dealer by Thomas Pringle, and the second one is Hard to Find by Sinisipho Jojo. Right, so let's start with 6.1, and the instruction is read the poem carefully and then answer the questions which follow. The number of marks allocated to each question serves as a guide to the expected length of your answer. Right, so let's just read the poem and then I'll explain it after. The Slave Dealer, Thomas Pringle. From ocean's wave a wanderer came, with visage tanned and dun. His mother, when he told his name, scars knew her long-lost son. So altered was his face and frame, by the ill course he had run. There was hot fever in his blood, and dark thoughts in his brain. And oh, to turn his heart to good, that mother strove in vain. For fierce and fearful was his mood, wracked by remorse and pain. And if, at times, a gleam more mild would o'er his features stray, when knelt the widow near her child, and he tried with her to pray, it lasted not, for visions wild, still scared good thoughts away. There's blood upon my hands, he said, which water cannot wash. It was not shed where warriors bled, it dropped from the glory lash. And as I wailed it o'er and o'er my head, and with each stroke left a gash, or every stroke I left a gash, while negro blood sprang high. And now, O ocean cannot wash my soul, for murderers die. Knowing their prayer, dear mother, quashed at the woman's wild death cry. Right, like I said, being able to comprehend the poem will make it easy for you to answer the questions. I know some of you just heard me read this poem, you're like, what is happening? So like this poem, basically, it tells a story. Where's my highlighter? I need my highlighter. Okay, let me use this. Yeah. Let me just test it. Okay. Right, so this poem tells a story of a man, right, who returns home from the sea, but his mother barely recognizes him because of how much has changed, both physically and morally. He's been corrupted by a life of cruelty, particularly his involvement in the slave trade. He's haunted by guilt, he's unable to find peace or redemption. It tortures him. And not even his mother's praise can erase the memory of his violence or the cries of his victim. Okay, just gonna need this. So right now, we're just gonna do some notes. It's okay to do your small notes next to the poem during the exam, so that you can comprehend it better or get a better understanding of what the poem is actually about. So let's start with the structure and form, right? The structure and form of the poem. There's a comment. I'm gonna make this a little smaller. Okay, so the form. What is the form of this poem? You should look at it. What is the form of this poem? When someone asks you, what is the form of the poem? What does that mean? How many stanzas does it have? Okay, I hope you guys got that correct. So it has 6 stanzas, right? Meaning that in everything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 6 stanzas. Let me just write it down so that it's more visible. There are 6 stanzas in this poem. What else is also there? There's also a rhyme scheme. There is a rhyme scheme. Example, I don't know if you guys noticed. Let me just write this properly. I don't know if you guys noticed. How do I erase this? Okay. There's a bit of rhyming that happens here. Came, name, frame. Done, sun, run, right? Blood, good, mood, brain, vein, pain. So there's also a rhyme scheme in this poem, right? It is a rhyme scheme. It is 6 stanzas. What else can you notice? There's the tone shift. The tone, it shifts from being what? Remorseful, and it's haunting in the final stanzas, right? And then we have the characters. We also have characters in this poem. Can you tell me can you think, because you can obviously tell me. Can you think and tell me, okay, what? Okay. Think for your eyes. Tell yourself who you think the characters in this poem are. Like, who are the characters? Okay, let me just copy this. Right. So the first character will be what? The slave dealer, right? The guy that this poem is about. The slave dealer, or let's just say the wanderer. The wanderer, he was once what? He was once a sailor. He was once a sailor, now he's being haunted by the things he used to do there. And then we have what? The mother. And the mother, let's say, she's a symbol of love to the slave dealer. And then we also have the victims, right? We know who the victims were. It's stated there. So the victims, which are the enslaved Africans, right? Who suffered under his whip. Right, so these are the characters in this poem. What else can we take from this poem? We also have themes, right? We have guilt and remorse. With guilt and remorse, and the narrator is tormented by his sins. He cannot escape his conscience. Is feeling very guilty. And also the slavery's moral corruption, right? The poem, it condemns slavery, showing how it destroys not only the enslaved but also the enslavers. The people who are actually inflicting the pain. It also impacts them. And then the power of prayer and the loss of innocence, because it's unrecognizable to his mother, because that evil has changed him physically and spiritually, right? So another fact is that Thomas Pringle, he was a Scottish, is late, unfortunately, was a late Scottish poet and abolitionist who lived in South Africa in the early 19th century. So this poem is an anti-slavery statement, portraying the slave trader morally broken man. Instead of glorifying power, Pringle shows how participating in slavery destroys a man's humanity. The guilt is so deep that even religion, family, love, and time cannot wash it away. So this humanizes the trader, but not excuse him, rather. It shows slavery as a system that scars everyone it touches, right? So basically, that's what this poem is about. And this is, I told you the themes, yeah, but it's basically condemning slavery and how the people inflict slavery or pain to other people. Morally, they get broken by doing that, because no sane human being would treat another human being like that, right? So let's go into the questions. Oh my gosh, I didn't finish the poem. Okay, let's just finish it. Her cry is ever in my ear, and do not let me pray. Her look I see, her voice I hear, as when in death she lay, and said, with me thou must appear on God's great judgment day. Now cries from frenzy, keep my son, the woeful widow cried, such murder foul thou hast done, something thy soul belied, nay mother, the avenging one, was witness when she died. The within wedge, with furious heel, I crushed, no metal nigh, but that same hour her dread appeal was registered on high, and now with God I have to deal, and dare not meet his eye. Right. So I already explained to you guys what this poem is about. So now let's start answering the questions, right? So 6.1.1, complete the following sentences by using the words in the list below. Write only the word next to the question numbers in the answer book. Okay. So A, it says, when the slave dealer returns home, it is evident that he has changed physically, right? He has changed physically. Okay. B, he tries to with his mother. What does he try to do with his mother? He tries to pray with his mother, but he has terrible what is it? It's terrible visions of the woman he had. D, he had horribly what? He had violently killed. Right? So then 6.1.2, it says, describe the time and place where stanza 1 is set. Okay, let's go to the first stanza. So where is this first stanza set? It is set where? So this takes place after the slave dealer returns home from his travels to his mother's home. Right. So that is the time and place. Then 6.1.3, it says, explain the irony of the wandering skin having been tanned in line 2. What is the irony? Remember, this is a slave dealer, and now his skin is starting to look dark, right? So where's the irony in that? So his own physical resemblance now resembles the people that he was oppressing. That's the irony. Now he's starting to look like the people that he was abusing, right? Then 6.1.4 says, identify the figure of speech used in line 7. There was hot fever in his blood. What is this? What figure of speech is it? It is a metaphor. And why are we saying it's a metaphor? Excuse me. We're saying it's a metaphor because it compares, well, you don't really need to write this, but if you do, because there's one mark. It is a metaphor. It is a metaphor because it compares his intense guilt, rage, anger, and inner turmoil to a hot fever, So without using like or showing how deeply disturbed and agitated he is, that's how his anger felt like. You know how when you have a fever, it feels very hot, it feels very raw. That's how bad his anger and guilt are, right? Then 6.1.5, it says, explain why the speaker is unable to pray on lines 31 to 33. So it says, her cry is ever in my ear, and it will not let me pray. Her look I see, her voice I hear. Why is he not able to pray? What is he hearing? What is he seeing? Right? So he is haunted. He's haunted by guilt and the cries of his victims. Even when he's in the quiet, he hears their cries. When he closes his eyes, he sees them, right? So he can't even pray anymore without hearing them or seeing them. Then 6.1.6, change one word to make the following statement true. The dying woman told the slave dealer that God will forgive him. How do we make this true? We have to change one word. Did she really say God will forgive him? No. What did she say? She said God will punish him. So that's the one word you change. You remove forgive and you put punish. God will punish him. Right. So one of the themes in the slave dealer is guilt. Discuss this theme. Okay. So now we just have to state the instances in the poem where this slave dealer is experiencing guilt. Right. 6.1.7. So discuss the theme. What are the themes? Where do we see the guilt? The first thing is that the slave dealer is tormented by memories, right, of the violence he inflicted on the victims. Okay. What else did he do? Even, okay, when he prays, he keeps being tormented by their cries. Another part where we see guilt is in his own mother cannot even comfort him because his guilt is that bad. Right. Then we have 6.1.8. Right. It says the slave dealer's mother can be pitied. Discuss your view. Do you feel pity for her or do you not? This is your own view. If this was your son, would you think people would be like, that's okay, it's your son, he was murdering people and whatnot, but he's still your son, you must love him? Or would you say that she should have just cast him aside and said, I no longer want you in my life, you're inflicting pain on these innocent people, you are inhumane and I don't want you. So this has to do with your view, right? Now, the last poem, which is very short, but that doesn't mean that because it's short that it's that easy, right? So let's read this real quick. Hard to Find by Sinisipo Jojo. Words are everywhere, daily. We read them and they fly out, like nobody's business when we are provoked. But there's always something hard to understand. They are hard to find when they're needed by the heart. When the heart feels, words hide like they're not part of life. While words are busy playing some twisted game, my heart looks sadly through the glass windows as the raindrops slowly slide down, gently on a cloudy lifetime, hoping that one day words will realize what my heart wants to say. So this is a free verse poem. If you see a poem like this, it's free verse, doesn't really rhyme, it just flows, right? So in this poem, it explores how words, although always present in our daily lives, often fail us when we try to express deep emotions. So the speaker feels that when the heart is overwhelmed with feelings, words hide and become difficult to find. So this struggle to communicate emotions leaves the speaker feeling isolated and longing for the day when words will truly express their heart's desires. So basically that's what the poem is about. Right. So let's start with it. We just delete this. This is going to be 6.2.1. Right. The first question says, which is A. It says, when the speaker refers to they fly out, does she mean literally or figuratively? What do you think she means? She obviously means it figuratively. B, B, it says, explain the meaning of they fly out. What does it mean? So it means that are, no, words are spoken quickly and easily, often without thought. That's what she means, right? We usually do that. We just let the words fly out and we don't really say most of the things that we mean. So 6.2.2, what is meant by we are provoked on line 4? Like nobody's business when we are provoked. So the phrase that we're provoked, it means that we are angered, upset, or stirred emotionally by something, right? So it suggests that it suggests that we are when we are, let me just say, um angry, we end up saying things we don't mean out of anger, right? That is very true. And then 6.2.3 says refer to line 6 to 7. They're hard by the heart. They're hard to find when they're needed by the heart. So what tone will the speaker use in these lines? What tone would she use? It would mean that it's expressing a sense of frustration or sadness, right? Because you feel very frustrated when you're in a situation where you want to express your emotions, but the words are just stuck on your throat, right? Then B says, why will the speaker use this tone? Why would she use that tone? She is trying to emphasize what? The emotional, the emotional struggle that comes with being in that position. Then 6.2.4, it says, refer to line 9. Words hide like they're not part of life. Identify this figure of speech in this line. What is the figure of speech? It is a simile, right? Words hide like is the hint. So it's a simile. Let me just skip A. It's a simile. Then B, it says, explain why the figure of speech is relevant in this line. You know, um, it means that, it means that when the heart feels deeply, the right words become difficult to find or express. Right. And then 6.2.5, which says, explain what the speaker says. Words are busy playing some twisted game. State 2 points. Why did you say that? 6.2.5. Explain what the speaker says. Words are busy playing some twisted game. So the words that I used, um, the words that I used are what? Are, I don't know, cruel, and they cause sadness, right? Right. So let's go to the last page, which says, choose the correct answer to complete the following sentence. As the raindrops slowly slide down, is an example of what? Is an example of alliteration, right? So you can come here and say 6.2.6, it is B. Then 6.2.7, it says, refer to line 13. What does this line tell us about the speaker's state of mind? Line 13, she's saying, on a cloudy lifetime. What does that show us about her state of mind, the author? You know, that the speaker state of mind is sad, or gloomy and troubled, because cloudy, it just come back here. Cloudy, where is it? Cloudy, it symbolizes confusion or emotional heaviness. It shows that the speaker feels a sense of uncertainty and frustration because her heart's feelings cannot be fully expressed in words. So the imagery of a cloudy lifetime conveys that this struggle with communication is ongoing and affects the emotional outlook on life, right? Okay. And then the title, Hard to Find, is suitable for this poem discussed with you. This is then when you input your view. Okay, guys, it's been a very long video. I hope it was very beneficial. I hope it made you have a better understanding of how to tackle poetry when you do your paper 2, literally in just a few weeks, right? For prelims and also for your finals. Okay, I hope you have a good one.